what is the deal with the LSAT-Flex? I know that the LSAT decided that that would be the best option to take given the current situation, but do you have a sense of what the format would be like? I know it's all going to be online, but structure-wise, like what is that going to look like?
Sure. So the structure is pretty interesting. It's going to be, most noteworthy, 3 sections, not 5. So there's no experimental section and there's only 1 section of logical reasoning, and all 3 sections count. So obviously a big change from back when you and I took it with the 5 sections in person, and even back then it was on paper too. Now it's online and digital, and it's shorter.
That's crazy. Yeah. So how do you think that's going to impact how students prepare? Like, do they feel more restrained because you don't really have that much option score wise? Like some people are really good at LR, and if that's just cut down to 1 section, like how does that look like?
Well, like anything else, it's a mix of good and bad, right? So the good is it's shorter, 3 sections, not 5. So endurance is not nearly as important. You're also doing fewer questions, and so test day is shorter. That's a more pleasant experience for most, and you get to do it in the comfort of your own home. So assuming you've got a good internet connection and your roommates and family and whoever else are going to stay quiet for 2 hours, you could have a more pleasant and short test day experience. Flip side is that, as you said, only 1 logical reasoning section. Logical reasoning has, in fact, diminished in importance. It used to be half the exam. Now it's a third, and they're going to weight every question the same. So if logical reasoning was strong for you, you might prefer the old in-person where it was half. If, on the other hand, if you like games and reading comp more, then the new LSAT-Flex is going to be better for you. So I expect that students will have a slight shift in where they focus their prep. I'm certainly recommending that you shore up your logic games and reading comprehension, and maybe spend a little bit less time on logical reasoning than you would have otherwise. But there's also ambiguity around, will this be the long-term format even beyond COVID-19?
Right. Because I know that this is just a way to address the current situation, but who knows when this is going to end? And then, like, how does that affect students who are trying to get in for the coming years? Like, I know, like, the internet connectivity issue, too, is also a big thing. Like, not many students have access to internet or, like, a laptop. Like, has LSAC said anything about trying to work around that?
Yeah, they are very committed to equal access, and they've said a lot around how they will support students who don't have the right equipment or the right internet or the right home environment. Basically, if you don't have a good laptop that's suitable, or not a good internet connection, or not a good home environment, and maybe all 3, then reach out to them and they will provide you with a loaner. Maybe they'll set you up with a place to take it. And so they are committed to getting everyone a good environment to take this exam one way or another. And they, of course, and they have incentive to do that as well, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because law schools want and need applicants. And so they don't want the pipeline to dry up at all. They want as many people taking the LSAT. And that's part of why they have rolled out the LSAT-Flex so quickly. I'm actually rather impressed. Typically they move pretty slowly. They typically take a wait and see approach. They took a while to cancel the April LSAT, even though it was clear to everybody else it couldn't possibly go forward. And they actually still haven't canceled the June yet, even though some places have stay-at-home orders beyond the June LSAT. So there's no way it could happen. But with regard to the technical barriers that some students have, they are going to provide them with whatever is necessary to allow them to take it.
And then when it comes to accommodations, are they still going to keep the standard format, or what's that going to be?
Oh, yeah. If you were given accommodations prior, they will honor those however they need to. Okay. Things like extra time are easy to deliver on the digital online format because they can just change the countdown timer. But with other things, if students need more in-person support of some kind, then they'll probably have you take it at a local university or law school. And you might even take it on a separate day, but anyone affected should simply reach out to LSAC if they haven't already heard, and they'll provide them with whatever's necessary. But it is interesting to see what could happen long-term with this. I mean, my personal prediction is that in the long term, it will be online. I don't see them going backwards on technology, given that it is logistically easier for the vast majority of students. Also, no commuting to a test center. Some people have to keep hitting refresh to book a test center, or get blocked out if there weren't enough seats available. I'm sure you remember it, or traveling long distances. So well. Yeah. So, I mean, if you could take it at home and not have to go anywhere, that saves a ton of effort and time involved in potentially traveling for this.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of students are kind of concerned with trying to balance studying with the LSAT and then the whole situation with Corona and like dealing with other external factors? Like, how do you suggest students go about balancing all of that and still trying to prepare in their best way?
Yeah, well, it is a difficult situation for many if their family is affected or their work is affected and their
Mhm.
schedule's in flux. If you have a lot more free time than you previously did, then this could be the push you needed to get the studying done. Now, I would
Mhm.
definitely take advantage of the time if you have it in your schedule. I've actually
Yeah.
created study plans specifically around if you've got nothing but time to study for this, here's how to budget your day where you maximize it without burning out.
Mhm.
And I could send you some resources on this, but the short version is basically do your morning routine, knock out a couple hours, break for lunch, couple more hours of studying, then you're done. If that's not your situation though, and you've got work obligations or family obligations, be patient with yourself, have compassion for yourself, and don't feel like you have to do it all now on top of everything else that's going on. If that requires delaying your LSAT a bit, so be it. The LSAT's worth devoting the time. And if you can't knock it out in a month or two, that's okay. You could still, we're speaking now in mid to late April, you could still take the LSAT in August and apply at the beginning of the cycle in the fall. So be patient with yourself, give yourself time. Don't try to do it all. I'm even hearing from students who got COVID and were sick and they're like, how do I study? And I'm like, why are you thinking about studying right now? Just rest
Yeah.
and get better. I
Right.
understand the ambition, I understand the motivation, but if you're not feeling up to it, take a break. You can always come back to it down the line.
And like with the whole like people still trying to study, like how do you think that they should score the test? Like I know that being able to track how you're improving and progress is also a thing that students love to be able to do. How would that change and what would be the best route to take?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, LSAC has not yet given us any guidance regarding raw score conversions because the old exam would have about 100 questions. The Flex has
Mhm.
about 75. And so we're wondering how many questions do you need correct to get a 170 or a 160 or what have you.
Right.
They haven't given us any guidance yet. I'm still waiting for a response from them on that, but I do have a couple of quick and dirty techniques to approximate it. The simplest would be take your raw score on a given exam where you do only 3 sections, leaving out one of the logical reasonings, and multiply it by 4/3 or 133% to approximate it.
Hmm.
Another way would be to take your accuracy percentage and use that as a benchmark or a starting point to do before you convert with a raw score. Because basically you have your questions out of 100 or out of 75, and you want to get a score out of 180. So those are 2 quick techniques that you could use. It won't be perfect. It'll be a general idea. You could also look at your percentages per section. So if you got 21 out of 26 on logical reasoning, what would that typically lead to across 2 sections?
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be very challenging to like still figure all of that out all at once for sure.
Yeah, but those are some quick ideas. I'm hoping LSAC will provide more soon. And if they can admit to themselves that this is not just a one-time thing, that Flex will go on beyond just May, they may want to provide more guidance for students long-term. I've even asked them to provide that inside their own digital LSAT platform because students want to prep like game day, 3
Mhm.
sections, not 5. That's the best way to do that.
And do you think that students who are looking to take the test, like say later, like August, should they be more worried and try to take the test like it's going to be potentially an LSAT Flex administration, or should they just keep studying like regularly?
Yeah, we don't really know which way it's going to go, right? We don't know if
Yeah.
August will be Flex or digital 5 section. And I'd say be ready for anything right now. But the content of the exam, the fundamentals, the foundation, none of that changes. So you still want obviously top accuracy across all sections,
Hmm.
regardless of whether you're doing 3 or 5. What this really changes is, are you prepping for an in-person environment with other people around you and a proctor, or will the situation still make that unthinkable and you don't want to be near anybody else and everyone's going to be staying home, right? We don't really know. And so I'd say be ready for anything. If you're already at the point where you want to be doing timed sections, timed exams, maybe do some 3-section exams timed and some 5-section exams timed. Do a mix, one of each. And then there's not much downside because even if you prep for a 5-section exam and you end up only having to do 3, is that really so bad? It's like you prepped for a marathon, only ended up doing a half marathon. Half
True.
marathon is maybe easy after doing a full. and you don't want to do more work than you have to. But all the prep you're doing still applies. Like, you're still building endurance is never a bad thing. Getting through more questions is never a bad thing, as long as you don't burn out.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think that given that things are a little bit shorter, that scores will be out quickly?
I would hope so.
Because I know that the LSAT is funny and they tend to still keep their schedule the same.
Yeah, I mean, they typically have made you wait about 3 weeks for a score. For the Flex, at least this time in May, they're only making you wait 2 weeks. And that's in part because law schools at this point in the site admission cycle, they really want those scores from applicants so they can evaluate their applications. I'm hoping that they will continue to release them in 2 weeks, if not sooner. And they've always been able to release them faster. They've just always held back to do their analysis. But I think once they've done it in 2 weeks, that will become their new calendar. And over time, they'll try to get them faster and faster. I would hope at least they could give students an approximation or a provisional score saying your raw score conversion is approximately putting you in this range. Like maybe you got a 160 plus or minus 3. Yeah. They should at least do that. I'm hoping they will. It's never been easier with it being digital and now online. We'll see what happens with time.
Yeah, because I think, I might be wrong, but I think the GRE or like some exams like the MCAT maybe have that kind of idea, like after you take it, that this is what you potentially scored. Yeah.
Yeah, they've done that. And I think now that the LSAT and the LSAC, they have competition from the GRE, that's going to continue driving them to innovate more and also to be more student friendly. And so I think we'll see more positive changes like this, like faster score release and maybe even some sort of instant estimated score.
And do you think this also applies to students who are located internationally, or is this just like America only right now?
For now, the Flex is only in North America. Okay. And even the May LSAT-Flex is only for students who were initially registered for the April LSAT, as well as the March LSAT in North America. But if they're not able to administer the June LSAT internationally, there would have been a June LSAT internationally in late June. If COVID situation doesn't allow for that, my guess is that they will make LSAT-Flex available to those students also, because those students already lost out on the March LSAT, and they want to apply also, and law schools want them too. So I think that they will open that up to them too, especially if they have good internet. No reason they can't administer it. There's no logistical barriers like getting iPads halfway around the world like there were for the regular digital LSAT.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. I don't have any more questions. Do you have anything you want to add?
That's pretty much it. I would just encourage students to feel free to reach out to me if they need anything at all. I'm putting out tons of new material on all these recent changes as I learn more. There are still a handful of unanswered questions like the raw score conversions, and I'm waiting for details from LSAC on that. I'm waiting for details on ProctorU around some of the details of what you can and can't do on the online LSAT-Flex, because the ProctorU is the company administering it from a security perspective. And so as soon as I get those updates, I will be updating my LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel and podcast with more on that.
Awesome. Well, it was great to have you back. Thank you so much.
Of course, FA, great connecting with you as well. Keep in touch and stay safe.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.